All right, everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Our Pickle Story. I'm your host, Arthur Cade, and the husband and wife duo joining me today are the exact reason that we started this digital series with the big deal. Charlotte and Shai Sabari, congratulations. You guys have built this wonderful business called Olive My Pickle. It's incredible because what you've been able to accomplish from just a tiny homesickness and starting out with your grandmother in Israel, Shai, to now building this incredible e-commerce business has been just, it's awesome. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's start right from the beginning. Shai, you're from Israel originally, and this pretty much just started as a hobby for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm originally from Israel and spent a lot of time actually in my grandparents' home and watching and smelling and helping and doing all those fun activities with grandma. That's kind of like, I never thought I would be in the kitchen, just helping her in the kitchen. But yeah, and then we moved forward and moving out from grandparents' home from a childhood to grown-up man, got here to the US. And then I miss those smells and flavors because I'm not next to my family. And then just playing around the kitchen. And then Charlotte says like, wow, it smells so good. What you doing? What you doing? And everyone else like, wow, wow. So that's normal, no? Like everyone's supposed to have it at home. And then brought some memories. And I think like one of the oldest memories is smells. So it's just brought the memories and the recipes and the touch and all together, but never thought it would be a business because it's just fun, you know? That's how it was.
Yep.
In the beginning.
That's how it started.
Well, you guys had this urban micro farm. So Charlotte, he was homesick. He decides to start making pickles. When do you guys realize that there might be a business here?
Yeah, so I think he made an extra big batch and I had them on the table at the farm stand one day and people would drive up and buy what we had in terms of our little crops. But yeah, I don't know exactly how it started, but people started to taste them and then the light bulb went off and, hey, maybe we should package these up. And we did put them on the table. Those just started flying. We also went to some farmers markets at the time. So we did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that just started to become like, people would come for the pickles and maybe they'd buy something else, but yeah, they started coming for the pickles. So it dawned on us like, all right, I think this might be the actual business. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really nice to see there is actually a line standing for pickles, but the tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce, nobody stand in line. They're like, oh my gosh, they like the pickles more. And Charlotte, let's make some more. Let's make some more. And then we come back with 2 bags from the store and making more pickles. It's like, we can make money.
So when does this become a business versus a hobby? What you're describing is kind of this early seed of, hey, people like our product. This is cool. But then how do you evolve that into what eventually becomes Olive My Pickle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really had more to do with the end of the farm and needing to figure out what our next chapter was. We knew that the pickles sold really well, and Shai knew from his own experience that it was really hard to find good olives where we were living at the time. So we had those 2 sort of ideas, and it became time for us to move on from the farm experience. And when we did, we had all these connections in the farmers market community. But we wanted to kind of leave the farm in our rearview mirror. So we decided, okay, we think if we can find a good, like a really high quality source for olives, put the pickles in the mix. We have a replacement farmers market business, and we had all the contacts for that. So yeah, that's kind of how the beginning was. And I think we called it Pickles, Olives, and More was like our, working title business name for a while.
Yeah, all kind of like different funny ideas. And sure enough, we saw there was a need in the market. And for me, loving this product was so much easy to sell it and talk about it. But still, we had no clue what it could be or what is Olive My Pickle yet. So it was like the early days when Olive My Pickle just born, I would say.
Charlotte, you had a full-time job. So like any entrepreneurial venture, there's that moment where you have to decide, am I going to leave my moment of security for my moment of passion and entrepreneurship? When did you make that decision? When did you make the leap to say it's time?
I was working a job. It was very sales and market oriented at a consumer lifestyle brand company. And I had been there for a few years and just starting to kind of get itchy, like, all right, what's next? So I did this whole process of like, all right, I'm going to vision board it out. I'm going to collect all my words. I'm going to just get like the perfect opportunity be. And I went through this process and I'm like, I would ideally like to work for a family owned business, something in like health and wellness, preferably health food. And I want it to be, this, that, and all these other things. And then I kid you not, it was sort of like, I got just like knocked in the side of my head when I realized, oh my God, I just described my own business that I actually already own. Like I can quit my job. I can put all of my know-how and, skill and passion and time and talent into something we already have, instead of going and looking for something and being somebody's, working for someone else. So that was the point when I realized, all right, if I'm serious about everything I just said, I'm gonna do everything I know how to do here at Olive My Pickle. So,
Shai, were your thoughts, oh my God, how are we gonna have benefits now?
Right.
Exactly. That's the one part we didn't think. It's not the same paid. It was this
Yeah.
much. But I always believed, and Charlotte believed, like if you love what you do, you will make it. Just stick to it. And we love what we do. She's great in marketing and sales and branding, and she bought a company or the face of the company. So we always says like, I'm the pickle and the olives, and she's everything outside of the package. So all the beautiful things everyone else sees comes from Charlotte, and the flavors come from us or myself or Grandma's kitchen.
You then have a game-changing moment, and this is going to lead us into the next stage of what we're going to talk about, which is what makes what you produce different. And that game-changing moment is one Saturday, a customer approaches you and tells you, Shai, that your pickles changed her life, healed her IBS. You've got to walk me through this whole story and how you discovered the difference around your pickles.
So that's so true. And when this customer came, I was like speechless, not because I was shocked, because I didn't know what she was talking about and where we at. Because it's just like how you make something at home and then you hear like, hey, what you making so amazing, helping me such and such. I was like, I was just making pickles, honey. Like, that's all I do. No, but we hear this and you hear that. Are your pickle pasteurized? Says, no, our pickles never pasteurized. Why they should be? How much vinegar do you put? Vinegar. It's like, we don't use vinegar because it's saltwater brine. Yeah, and that's why it feels so good. Did you know you have probiotics in your pickles? I was like, I guess so. And I told Charlotte, and Charlotte said, it does make sense because saltwater brine, it's fermentation. And then from here and there, we start pieces together and actually send the product to labs to see like, let's see how much probiotics we have in there, how many different strings of probiotics. But yeah, answering your question, when the customer came and like, me making a change in your life? Nah, just selling pickles.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were different.
Yeah.
That takes me to Charlotte's shirt, which is the future is fermented. That fermentation is the key word here. As you guys discover this, what was the research? What kind of happens from there where you discover, oh my God, we actually have a legit health food on our hands?
Yeah. Basically we just took to Google and started learning. I know Michael Pollan's book Cooked had just come out around then. So I got that on CD at the time and just listened to that entire chapter or that whole portion on fermentation on repeat. And as it was just super, super eye-opening at the time to realize like, we've been doing this all along. I think I even said like, call your grandmother and just make sure that like, this is that. We literally were taught by that customer that this is fermentation, this is what we have. And this opens up so much in terms of it, like you said, a legit health food brand versus just, great pickles, but there's this other additional like entire aspect to it being super like a gut health superfood that we had a lot to learn on. So that was the beginning of a long learning process.
I want to talk to you about that long learning process because you have this moment of discovery. We have something here. What does that long road look like? How do you start creating a brand around it, packaging, trying to get it into stores? How are you figuring all this out?
Yeah, so we just started with where we were at. There's a good handful of independently owned health food stores here in the Jacksonville area. So we approached there first, and the owners were pretty friendly and said, sure, bring it on in. But then we had to figure out, all right, is this a jar? Is this a pouch? You have to figure everything from, the labeling to the barcodes to SKUs.
Expirations date, nutrition facts, all the stuff we had no clue.
Yeah.
And
FDA requirements, all of that. And not to mention just the branding and the logo and the language and the message and all that. So I would say, it took us a few years, and we have multiple iterations of early labels and logos that are super embarrassing, but they're part of the history. They got us to where we're at right now.
As you guys are trying to break into stores, how difficult is that? Obviously, when you think about trying to break into the Costco's of the world and a million other of these stores, what is that process like for a small business?
Yeah.
It's
really tough.
Really tough, long and sour, I would say, especially when we don't have a background in the food industry and stores and wholesaling. We had no clue what we're getting into, but we were so ambitious, and we decided to put everything in there because something will come out. One of those seeds around will come up. So we got a lot of promises, a lot of hopes, and we were going with it not for 1 year, for numbers of years. But it's a huge, huge battle. I don't regret. We learned a lot. And
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be willing for this introductory period to build the business 100% yourself. And of course, that sounds like, well, who else would do it? But eventually you get big enough, you have enough stores that you can hand the delivery and the distribution of your business over to a distributor. But before you can have one that'll take you seriously and who wants to represent you, you have to do all of that yourself. For probably a couple years, we had a commercial cooler truck, and we were driving all around the state of Florida. Like Shai was driving across Alligator Alley in South Florida at like 3 a.m. So he would be at the whole, West Coast of Florida trip. Like we did that a lot. It was a long process. And we had just one store at a time. A lot of like calling and, hey, we're going to be in your area. Can we drop off samples? And when you get there, you want the staff to be, invested. So you give the staff some product, you give them t-shirts, you show up, you do demos in the store. All of that is what you have to put in just to get to a point where you can have a distributor return your phone call. And then you begin the distributor relationship. So,
and we saw there's opportunities over there. However, we like the relationship with the direct to the customer, and the customers know us, know the story, know behind the product, and also know who makes the product and how we make the product, the whole process behind it. So we spend a lot of time actually educating customers, working with them and guide them what to purchase, how to buy, and what's good for them. And that's rewarding. Every day when we get a testimonial, for me, it's like $1 million in my bank. It's awesome.
And I would say Shai's referring to when we would speak with the customers while we were building this wholesale business. Every single Saturday, we were standing in front of our customers for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time at the farmers market. So we never have lost touch with like our actual customer. We see them every single week. It's such an opportunity to have also watched just like the level of awareness out there in the general consumer population increase when it comes to fermented foods. So we're really in touch with our customer. Yeah.
You then pivot to e-commerce, and obviously e-commerce is kind of the hot buzzword for, hey, we're going to sell stuff online. What was that process like?
Wow, it's another world we didn't know what we're getting into. So that was, I think, world number 3.
Right.
Yeah. I would say good for numbers of years. We just tried to figure how to get those pickles in this package and how to take this package to get to this customer, and also how to find this customer across the country in our site. So that was like, wow, but it's just like baby steps. You keep willing, keep doing. We have tons of stories, but tons of mistakes, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, but we keep always stand up and do it and again and again and again. I think after numbers of years, I would say we kind of cracked the code, how to ship, how to make the product to ship, how to use the packages. And it just comes together. A lot of labor coming back.
Takes a lot of time, a lot of trial and error. And we've just been fully committed. I mean, trust me, we've wanted to quit at times, like multiple times, because it's not like a really easy road we picked. Because we're shipping a cool product. In fact, there's nothing really like fermented foods that gets shipped. Something's either like a shelf-stable dry product and doesn't need any insulation, or you have like grocery delivery services that are all about like, fresh vegetables. But fermented foods kind of occupy this fascinating middle ground between those two. So we have developed our own, because there's no one to look for or look to kind of show us the way on this. So yeah, lots of trial and error, lots of testing out dry ice versus ice packs versus, this type of insulated package versus that. That was the whole, the journey of how to get it right when it lands on the front door.
A lot of reships.
A lot of reships.
And then after a decade, you were quote unquote an overnight success. That's what people don't realize. You're
Right.
never an overnight success.
No.
Many nights.
Yeah.
A lot of nights.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you guys about the science around this, because obviously we've talked around the word fermentation. What actually goes into these pickles? Why are they healthier? Why do they actually benefit us?
Sure. So the process of fermentation is short for lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid is the type of good guy bacteria, lactic acid bacteria, that is created in the fermentation process. So, all right, well, what does that mean? That kind of bacteria is also known as probiotics, which is kind of a big term, but that's basically good guy bacteria that confers a health benefit to the person who eats it. So that's what will result from the fermentation process. Compared to just regular pickles that are produced with vinegar or like a heat canning process, or they're pasteurized, those products, any kind of vinegar pickle, isn't going to have this live culture probiotic benefit to it, because vinegar creates a different kind of acid. It's called acetic acid. So that is too acidic for these good guy probiotics to be born and to flourish. Whereas lactic acid is actually the perfect environment for good guy probiotics to abound. So that's the big difference on fermentation versus vinegar pickles. Yeah.
And they make miracles in the gut.
They really do. Yeah.
So my question is, why isn't everybody doing this? Why hasn't everybody really moved to the fermentation end of the spectrum?
Yeah. Well, we come up against just a lot of like myths and misperceptions all the time. And we know this because we're talking to like the public at the farmer's market. Most people just don't know. Although I will say the awareness around probiotics and gut health has grown a lot thanks to like yogurt. People have kind of heard something, oh, I hear that pickles are supposed to be super healthy. And that's where we start our conversation. Yes, but they need to be the saltwater brine pickles. It's not all pickles are created equal, is what we say. So yeah, I think there's a few reasons why. Fermentation is a bit of a lost skill or a lost art. It's actually how our ancestors preserved our food for thousands of years, like way back before refrigerators were invented. And vinegar kind of came in and took over along with like shelf stability and pasteurization into the 1900s. So fermentation is a lost art, fell by the wayside a little bit. It's definitely been revived though, because right along with gut health, it's sort of a trending movement as well. So
yeah, and also the process to make fermented pickles can take 7 to 14 days. In today's industry, you don't have time to take 7 to 10 business days. As soon as these cucumbers get to the factory, they have to be out of the factory in 24 hours to fill up the supermarket shelves.
Yeah.
So we're taking the time to cook them and get them fermented and get them out. So yeah.
It's just a longer process. Yeah.
So I'm one of those people who anytime I hear the word organic, I'm always like, oh, the taste is going to be so different, or any type of version of organic or something different. I'm like, it's just not going to be as good as the original. You guys shipped me a whole package of Olive My Pickle, and I tried a couple, and I was just like, this is unbelievable. So this leads me to the big question. If someone buys your product, how do they compare in taste? I know how they compare in taste, but how would you describe how they compare in taste to regular pickles?
Sure. So that's like the number one question we get when we've turned the lights on and someone's like, okay, we've got vinegar and we've got saltwater brine fermented. How do they taste? So basically, if you taste a fermented pickle, you may not even realize you're not eating a vinegar pickle. And that goes back to the acid that is in the pickle, which is what gives it its kind of, pickle punch, we call it. So again, vinegar is more acidic, but lactic acid also creates that that tang and that sourness that you're looking for from a pickle. So on that note, you're right there with a vinegar pickle. But what a fermented pickle has that vinegar pickles don't is that like more that depth of flavor and that finish. We call it the fermented finish. And that comes from that umami taste that, you know, we've all been hearing about for a while now. But yeah, you get a little bit more complexity and depth of flavor with a fermented product versus a vinegar pickle.
I was really surprised at how little of a difference there was and how much I actually really enjoyed it. I was expecting there to be a very large differentiation. Really couldn't tell that much of a difference, and it was absolutely delicious. So kudos.
Thanks. Yep, we've sampled thousands of people their very first bite of a fermented pickle and watched their face and heard the words that they have to say, again, from our time at the farmer's market. And one of the most common things is like, wait a second, I know that's got vinegar in it. That can't possibly not have vinegar in it. So yeah, that's absolutely a lot of people's experience. Yeah.
I love crunchy pickles. How would you describe the crunch comparison?
Yeah. Well, nailing the crunch was another sort of little journey we took. Yeah, it comes down to the salt level being right.
There's some other secrets and ingredient secrets and techniques, I would say. But again, it's based on saltwater brine. And ideal is to keep the pickles nice and crunchy and snapped.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to.
Yeah, we have a pickle on hand right here. We were anticipating this question, and Shai's going to do it. Shai's going to do a demo, a crunch demo.
Okay, we have
this might be a first. This might be a first in my interviewing career.
Are we allowed to?
We're used to it. Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready? All right.
All right.
Nice and sour. Love it. Crunchy.
How do you guys, by the way, you could hear the crunch through the Zoom, which was great. You got to love modern technology.
Right.
How do you guys begin to develop the product variety? And then you guys have also branched out to other types of products. Once you have the formula down for what you're doing, how does expansion begin?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it or finish eating your pickle?
Yeah, I'm good. So one of the things that we really like to do is the farmers markets. And over there, not just selling the pickles or selling our product, is actually listening to our customers. This is the best piece of information we can get. And when customers ask questions and curiosity, they ask like, hey, why didn't you do garlic pickles, spicy pickles? Did you ever think about this kind of sauerkraut? And then we read about all kinds of benefits, from beet kraut to turmeric kraut and so on. So we start to put things like flavors and health benefits together. And as soon as you nail the formula, it's just easier just to start to build on. And where we live, people like variety. So we like to give them an option to provide them to eat. And each different product has different color. Charlotte can talk more about the colors, because colors are wonderful, but actually really beneficial for them.
Sure. Yeah, well, to Shai's point, people like variety. But the other thing about when you learn about fermented foods and how good they are for your gut, the number one thing to be successful in achieving gut health benefits is eating them consistently, like 3 times a day, kind of every day. So if you only have 1 or 2 things to choose from, the likelihood that you're going to keep up with that consistency isn't going to be very high. But what a better way to keep like a good healthy habit than to keep it interesting. And that's where like the variety comes in. So we have like over 40 products at this point, and they're all like just different creative ways to ferment vegetables. And a lot of that did come from our customers, just flavor suggestions, or our entire kimchi line. We have 3 different kimchis. That isn't something we knew how to do, but you know, how can you have a fermented food company and not make kimchi? So that was a whole journey developing those out. But yeah, variety is exactly what you need to keep your good habits and to stay with it when it comes to eating fermented food as a lifestyle, not just like, oh, I think I'll have some. Yeah.
One other product is pickle juice. You guys have pickle juice.
Yeah, lots of that. Yeah, we do. Want to talk about
so
that?
yeah, so we like to do pickles, and then what you do with the juice, you know, you package the pickles, you get the juice, and again, listen to the customer and says like, oh my gosh, you know what? I love your pickles, but I love the juice, because when I drink the juice, I get all those good health benefits. Pickle juice. Yeah, pickle juice, we know. But no, you guys, pickle juice has the electrolytes and the minerals and the probiotics, and it's great for cramps and workout and all those things. It's like, you know what, Charlotte? Let's package the pickle juice.
Let's do it.
We have plenty of it, so why not?
Yeah.
And then we can tweak and work the formulas and make it good for consumer to drink and ship and anything we need. And yeah, and then one of our best sellers, the pickle juice, because it's so rich.
It's good. It's good. So we call it a daily gut health elixir, because Shai said it has the probiotics. It actually has the most concentrated form of the probiotics, more so than the fermented vegetables, the brine does. And it has electrolytes that come from the high mineral sea salts, which is the potassium, the magnesium, and so we have an electrolyte benefit, which helps people with cramps and rehydration. And then we have a bunch of new flavors coming out, that we're going to be launching, actually coming up here pretty soon. So we'll have 8 different flavors of our pickle juice coming up. Yeah.
We've used the word probiotic health now many, many times throughout this chat, but people may not be aware of what that actually means and just how important gut health is. So I'm going to kind of throw the college professor hat on both of you guys. What is probiotic and why is it important for gut health?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, where did all of this awareness and popularity of probiotics and gut health actually come from? It's 2022. Everybody's heard about it, but like, how did we get here? It's interesting. It actually starts back in the late 90s. The international scientific community got together and they said, we want to map the human genome. So they launched the Human Genome Project, which was to establish what makes a human being genetically. They actually got through that project really quickly, like ahead of schedule. But in that process, they learned something really interesting, which is that the human body is actually made up only of about 10% human cells and about 90% other in the form of bacterial cells, which sounds a little scary, but it's actually fascinating. So what that discovery led to was the Human Microbiome Project, which was to get to the bottom of this discovery, which is we are co-living and cohabitating and really coexisting with just a bunch of bacteria living in our bodies and on our bodies, on our skin. That entire colony of good guy bacteria is called the microbiome. And about, I guess, 70% of the microbiome lives in your gut. Your gut is sort of like ground zero headquarters for the microbiome that lives in your body. So over the next 10 years after the microbiome project was launched, all of this science came out about it. And there's just been so much discovery around how vital the microbiome is to health. It actually functions way more like a vital organ than just some, random colony of bacteria that's in your body. It's responsible for really key things in your body, like your immune system regulation, a lot of things with appetite and body weight moderation, things like that. And new science is discovering more and more all of the different links. There's a huge connection between the gut health and brain as well. It's called the gut-brain connection. We're hearing a lot about that as well. So the science that resulted after the microbiome project was launched is what's actually responsible for the headlines and the information and all of the consumer products we're seeing now that have come out about probiotics and microbiome and gut health. That's how we got here.
So the magic question is, what does this have to do with pickles? How does this all connect?
Right, exactly. Do you want to?
No.
Okay, all right. What does this have to do with pickles? Exactly. So we're like 10 years into the research at this point. And one thing that has become clear is that your microbiome needs a few things to thrive and flourish. The first thing really is fiber. Your microbiome subsists on insoluble fiber. That's also called prebiotics. If you've heard the word prebiotics, all that means is insoluble fiber. And why that is so important is that your microbiome actually eats fiber for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the occasional snack. It loves it. That's, if you're feeding your microbiome, it's going to, be strong and robust. So it starts there with fiber. And then the second thing that's being discovered is that the introduction of live culture foods on a consistent, regular basis is another way to strengthen and sharpen and kind of drill the resident microbiome that's living in your body. There was a huge study that came out last year from Stanford University, and they had a group of people who ate fermented foods for a period of time, and they measured their immunity markers at the end of the study, and those that had eaten the fermented foods were just way higher and way healthier and had much stronger immune systems than the people that didn't. And anybody in the fermented food world, when they heard that, was like, all right, that's pretty cool that science has validated it, what we've all kind of like suspected for a long time now. Yeah.
So Shai, fermented pickles, the key to world peace. Is that what we're saying?
I come from Israel and call it the Middle East. So I would like to see peace around those countries. And if everyone will be busy making pickles because they're all best in that, make pickles and not be busy in wars. So
yeah.
Guys, congratulations. Great food. And also the benefits of it are fantastic. And more importantly, your story was something that we were just drawn to right from the beginning. It's kind of the perfect little American dream story, starting from this homesickness and wanting to make pickles to now building a thriving business and just continuing to expand and being a husband and wife. This is my final question. Being a husband and wife and working together, what is that dynamic like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like when you're building a business, I mean, it's a constant learning process, and learning how to work with your spouse. That's just all part of it. There's not really a separation between like work life and home life. It's all one life. And it's just like, yeah, we for a long time, we looked at it like that.
And for me, it's like we complete each other when we work together. So it's make us one and make us a better company and better for others. So it's very, very rewarding and work together, be united.
Guys, thank you so much for an incredible chat on our pickle story, and congratulations on everything with Olive My Pickle. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you,
This
Arthur.
was fun.